The night everything shattered didn't begin with shouting. It began with silence. The kind of silence that feels too heavy for a home that once held laughter. I remember standing outside the bedroom door, my hand frozen inches from the handle, my heartbeat pounding so loudly I thought it would give me away. The hallway light flickered above me, casting uneven shadows across the walls we had painted together just 2 years ago. Back when everything still felt real. Back when she still felt like mine. Her voice came first. Soft. Fragile. Not the voice she used with me anymore. I still love you. 3 words. 3 simple words that didn't belong to me anymore. I felt something inside my chest twist so violently it almost dropped me to my knees. At first, my mind tried to reject what I had just heard. It searched for context, for explanation, for anything that could reshape those words into something harmless. But then he spoke. I never stopped loving you either. That voice. I hadn't heard it in years, but I recognized it instantly. Her ex. The one she swore was just a closed chapter. The one she told me not to worry about. The one whose name I had forced myself to forget. My hand slowly fell away from the door. Every instinct in me screamed to burst inside, to confront them, to demand answers, to fight for what was supposed to be mine. But something stronger stopped me. Something colder. Because deep down, I already knew. You don't say, I still love you by accident. You don't whisper it like that unless it's been living inside you for a long time. And in that moment, I realized something that hurt more than betrayal itself. I wasn't losing her that night. I had already lost her, long before I even noticed. I stood there for what felt like hours, listening to the quiet conversation continue. There were no arguments, no guilt, no hesitation. Just 2 people reconnecting like they had never been apart. Like I was the interruption. Like I was the mistake. I didn't cry. Not then. Not yet. Instead, I turned around. Walked down the hallway. Grabbed my keys. And left. No confrontation. No goodbye. No scene. Because sometimes, silence hurts louder than any words ever could. The drive was a blur. Streetlights passed like streaks of gold across the windshield, but I barely saw them. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white, but I didn't feel it. All I could hear were those 3 words repeating over and over in my head. I still love you. Not I loved you. Not I miss you. Still. Present. Alive. And suddenly, everything made sense. The late-night texts she hid behind a tilted phone screen. The sudden distance in her eyes. The way she stopped reaching for my hand. The way she started feeling like a stranger, while still sleeping in my bed. I pulled over at some random empty parking lot, not even sure where I was. The engine idled as I stared blankly ahead. That's when it hit me. Not anger. Not rage. Just emptiness. A hollow, suffocating emptiness that spread through my chest like smoke. I laughed. A quiet, broken laugh that didn't even sound like it belonged to me. Of course, I whispered to myself. Of course this is how it ends. Not with a fight. Not with closure. But with me standing outside a door, listening to the truth I was never meant to hear. I didn't go back home that night. I couldn't. Instead, I checked into a cheap motel off the highway, the kind of place you don't ask questions about, the kind of place people go when they're running from something or someone. The room smelled like old cigarettes and regret. Fitting. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at my phone. Her name was still at the top of my messages. No new texts. No calls. Nothing. It was almost poetic. She didn't even notice I was gone. Or maybe she just didn't care. I don't know which hurt more. Morning came too fast. Or maybe I just never really slept. The sunlight crept through the thin curtains, dragging me back into a reality I wasn't ready to face. For a brief second, I forgot. Then it all came crashing back. The words. The voice. The truth. I sat up slowly, rubbing my face, trying to ground myself, trying to figure out what came next. Because that's the thing no one tells you about heartbreak. It doesn't just break your heart. It breaks your direction, your sense of purpose, your future. Everything you thought you were building suddenly disappears overnight. And you're left standing there, holding nothing. I finally checked my phone again. Still nothing. No missed calls. No messages asking where I was. No concern. Just silence. And somehow, that silence hurt more than betrayal. Because it confirmed something I didn't want to admit. I wasn't her priority anymore. Maybe I never really was. Around 10 a.m., my phone finally rang. But it wasn't her. It was an unknown number. For a moment, I considered ignoring it. I didn't have the energy to deal with anything or anyone. But something told me to answer. Maybe curiosity. Maybe instinct. Or maybe something deeper. Something that knew my life was about to change again. I hesitated for a second, then picked up. Hello. There was a brief pause on the other end. Then a calm, professional voice spoke. Is this Daniel? Yes, who's this? My name is Rebecca Hayes. I'm an attorney. I frowned slightly, confusion cutting through the fog in my mind. An attorney? I think you have the wrong number. No, she replied smoothly. I'm quite sure I don't. Something in her tone made me sit up straighter. What is this about? Another pause. Then the words that would shift everything. I represent your wife. My stomach dropped. Of course. Of course this is how the next chapter begins. I let out a slow breath, bracing myself. All right, I said quietly, what does she want? But Rebecca didn't answer immediately. Instead, she said something that made my entire body go still. I think it would be better if we discuss this in person. A cold feeling spread through my chest. Why? Her voice softened just slightly. Because what I have to tell you isn't what you think. And in that moment, for the first time since I walked out that door, I felt something other than pain. Confusion. Fear. And something else. Something I couldn't quite name yet. But I would soon. Because whatever this was, it wasn't over. Not even close. And I had no idea that the woman who just called me was about to turn my entire world upside down. I stared at my phone long after the call ended. The silence in the motel room felt different now. Heavier. Charged. Like something unseen had just shifted in the air. An attorney. Her attorney. Why would she send a lawyer instead of calling me herself? And what did she mean, it isn't what you think? Because from where I was standing, it seemed pretty clear. I heard her. I heard everything. So what exactly could she possibly say that would change that? Unless. No. I shook my head. There was no alternate explanation for I still love you. No misunderstanding. No misinterpretation. Just truth. Painful, undeniable truth. And yet, something about Rebecca's voice lingered in my mind. She didn't sound like someone delivering divorce papers. She sounded careful, measured, almost concerned. That didn't make sense. None of this made sense. I looked around the motel room again, feeling suddenly out of place. Like I didn't belong there anymore. Like I had already been there too long. Maybe it was time to stop running. Maybe it was time to face whatever this was head-on. I grabbed my jacket, my keys, and my phone. And as I stepped outside into the harsh daylight, I had no idea that I wasn't walking toward closure. I was walking straight into something far more complicated, far more dangerous, and far more personal than betrayal alone. Because sometimes, the truth isn't what you hear. It's what's hidden behind it. And I was about to find out just how much had been hidden from me for far longer than I ever imagined. The address Rebecca sent me led to a glass building in downtown Chicago. Cold, modern, impersonal. The kind of place where lives get dismantled in conference rooms and signatures decide who walks away with what. I sat in my car for a long minute, staring up at the towering structure. People moved in and out like nothing in the world could possibly be falling apart inside. But for me, everything already had. I stepped out, adjusted my jacket, and walked in. Each step felt heavier than the last. The receptionist barely looked up when I gave my name. "Take the elevator to the 14th floor. Ms. Hayes is expecting you." Of course she was. I stepped into the elevator, watching the doors close slowly like they were sealing me into something I couldn't escape. 14th floor. The numbers climbed. So did the tension in my chest. Ding! The doors opened. And just like that, there was no turning back. Rebecca Hayes wasn't what I expected. She wasn't cold or intimidating. She wasn't sharp or aggressive like most attorneys I'd seen. She stood by the window when I walked in mid-30s, composed, but there was something in her eyes, something human. Something almost conflicted. "Daniel," she said gently, "thank you for coming." I didn't sit. "I'll get straight to it," I replied. "If this is about divorce papers, just give them to me." Her expression tightened slightly. "It's not that simple." I let out a bitter laugh. It usually isn't when someone says, "I still love you," to another man. That hit. I saw it in her face. She didn't look surprised. Which meant she already knew. "Please," she said softly, gesturing to the chair. "Sit down. There are things you need to understand before you make any decisions." I hesitated, then sat. Not because I trusted her, but because something in my gut told me this wasn't going the way I expected. She slid a file across the table. Not divorce papers. Medical records. My brows furrowed. "What is this?" Rebecca took a breath before answering. "This is why your wife hired me." I stared at the documents, but didn't open them yet. Why would she need a lawyer for medical records? Rebecca's eyes locked onto mine. "Because she didn't want you to find out." A cold chill ran through me. "Find out what?" There was a long pause. Then she said it. "Your wife is dying, Daniel." Everything stopped. The room. The noise. My thoughts. It all just froze. "No," I said immediately, shaking my head. "No, that's not." "I wish I was wrong," Rebecca said quietly. I laughed again, but this time it came out unstable. "This is some kind of joke, right? A tactic. Something to make me feel guilty before she hands me divorce papers." "There are no divorce papers." My chest tightened. "Then what is this?" Her voice softened even more. "She has late-stage cancer." The word hit like a hammer. "Cancer." "No," I whispered. "She was diagnosed 8 months ago." 8 months? My head snapped up. 8 months, and she didn't tell me. Rebecca shook her head slowly. "She made that decision herself." "Why?" That question came out sharper than I intended. "Because nothing about this made sense." "Nothing." Rebecca hesitated, then said something that made my stomach twist. "Because she didn't want you to stay out of obligation." I stared at her, trying to process, trying to breathe. "She thought, if you knew, you'd sacrifice your life for her." "That's what marriage is," I snapped. "Is it?" Rebecca replied, not coldly, but honestly. "Or is it what she believed she didn't deserve anymore?" That shut me up. Because suddenly, I remembered the past few months. Her distance. Her quiet sadness. The way she would look at me when she thought I wasn't paying attention. Like she was memorizing me. Like she was already saying goodbye. My hands started shaking. So instead, fell back in love with her ex. Rebecca closed her eyes briefly. "No." I clenched my jaw. "I heard her." "I know you did." "Then explain it." Silence. "Then." "She didn't call him because she loves him." My eyes narrowed. "Then why?" Rebecca took a breath. "Because she needed someone who could leave without breaking." That didn't make sense. "Explain." "She thought if she pushed you away, you'd move on, heal, eventually be happy." And him. He was part of her past, someone she knew wouldn't fight to stay. I shook my head, anger rising again. So she just decided everything for me, decided I didn't deserve to know, decided I should just, walk away. Her voice stayed calm. She decided she didn't want to watch you break. I stood up. This time I couldn't sit still. This is insane. I know. No, you don't get to say that like it's reasonable. She lied to me, She's dying, Daniel. That stopped me. Again. Every time that word came back, it hit just as hard. She's scared, Rebecca continued, and she made choices out of fear, not logic. I ran my hand through my hair, pacing. This doesn't make sense, none of it if she loved me. She does. No, I snapped. You don't say, I still love you to someone else if you love your husband. Rebecca stood up slowly. She said that because she needed him to believe it. I froze. What? She needed him to stay, to help her carry this without involving you. That's selfish, Rebecca finished. Yes, but also human. I felt like the ground beneath me wasn't real anymore. Every piece of certainty I had was gone. So what now? I asked quietly. Rebecca hesitated, then reached into the file again. She asked me to give you something. She pulled out an envelope. My name written on it. In her handwriting. My chest tightened instantly. I didn't want to take it. Because somehow, I knew this would hurt more than anything else. Read it, Rebecca said softly. My hands felt heavy as I opened it. The paper inside trembled slightly as I unfolded it. And then, her words. Daniel, if you're reading this, it means everything went exactly the way I hoped and feared. I know what you heard. And I know what you're thinking. But please believe me when I say, that wasn't the truth. At least, not the whole truth. I never stopped loving you. Not for a second. But I knew if you stayed, it would destroy you. And I couldn't be the reason your life ended before mine does. So I made a choice. A terrible one. I pushed you away in the only way I knew would work. Because you deserve a future. A real one. Not one tied to hospital rooms and countdowns. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But I needed you to hate me. Because that's easier than watching you break. I love you. Always. Emily. The paper slipped from my hands. My vision blurred. And for the first time since that night, I broke. Not quietly. Not controlled. Completely. Because this wasn't betrayal. This was something worse. This was love. Twisted into something unrecognizable. And I didn't know whether to hate her for it or run back to her before it was too late. I looked up at Rebecca, my voice barely holding together. Where is she? Rebecca hesitated, then said softly, She told me not to tell you. I laughed bitterly through tears. Yeah, I think we're past that. Rebecca studied me for a long moment. Then finally, she nodded. And in that moment, everything changed again. Because now, this wasn't about leaving. This wasn't about betrayal. This wasn't even about heartbreak anymore. This was about time. And I had already lost 8 months. I wasn't about to lose whatever was left. I grabbed the letter, my keys, everything. Daniel, Rebecca called as I reached the door. I stopped. There's something else, she said. I turned back slowly. Her expression was different now. Heavier. What? She hesitated, then delivered the one sentence. That made everything even worse. She's not expecting you to come back. And somehow, that hurt more than everything else combined. Because it meant one thing. She had already said goodbye. And now, I had to decide if I was going to let her go, or fight for whatever time we had left. No matter the cost. The drive felt longer than any distance I had ever traveled. Not because of the miles, but because of the wait. Every second that passed wasn't just time. It was time she might not have left. Rebecca had finally given me the address. A quiet hospice facility on the outskirts of the city. Peaceful. Hidden. The kind of place people go when the world has already started saying goodbye. I didn't remember half the drive. I just remember pulling in and feeling my chest tighten so hard I had to sit there, gripping the steering wheel, trying to breathe. This was real. Not a misunderstanding. Not a fight. Not something that could be fixed with words. She was dying, and she had chosen to do it without me. I stepped out of the car slowly. The air felt too still. Too calm. Like the world had no idea what it was holding inside this place. Inside her. Every step toward the entrance felt heavier. Like I was walking into the end of something I wasn't ready to lose. The nurse at the front desk looked up as I approached. "Can I help you?" My voice caught in my throat for a second. "I'm here for Emily." She checked something on her computer, then paused. Her eyes softened slightly. "You're Daniel." It wasn't a question. I nodded. "She didn't expect you." I swallowed. "Yeah, I'm starting to understand that." The nurse gave a small, sympathetic smile. "She's in room 12. Room 12. The number felt final. Like it meant something more than just a door. I walked down the hallway slowly. Each step echoing faintly. Each second stretching longer. And then, I stood in front of it. Room 12. My hand hovered over the handle. Just like that night. Just like the moment everything fell apart. Only this time. I wasn't walking away. I opened the door. Slowly. Quietly. And there she was. She looked smaller. That was the first thing I noticed. Like life had been quietly taking pieces of her, little by little. Her hair was thinner. Her skin pale. Her body fragile beneath the hospital blanket. But it was still her. Still Emily. Still the woman I had built my life around. She didn't notice me at first. She was staring out the window. Lost somewhere far away. Maybe in a memory. Maybe in a version of life where none of this had happened. Emily. Her name barely left my lips. But it was enough. She froze. Slowly. She turned her head. And when her eyes met mine, everything shattered again. Shock. That's what hit her first. Pure, unfiltered shock. Then fear. Then something deeper. Something painful. "Daniel." Her voice trembled. Like she didn't trust what she was seeing. Like I wasn't supposed to be there. She shook her head slightly. You're not supposed to be here." I let out a broken breath. Yeah, I figured that out. Silence filled the room. Heavy. Unavoidable. She looked at me like I was a ghost. Like something from a life she had already buried. "Who told you?" she asked quietly. "Rebecca." She closed her eyes. "Of course. I told her not to." "I know." My voice cracked. "I know everything." That changed her expression. Not relief. Not comfort. Pain. Because now, there were no more lies left to hide behind. "Why?" I asked. It wasn't angry. It wasn't loud. It was just broken. "Why didn't you tell me?" Tears filled her eyes almost instantly. "Because I love you." I shook my head, stepping closer. "That's not love, Emily, that's selfish," she cut in, her voice trembling. "Yeah, I know." She looked away. I couldn't watch you go through this." "You think I'd choose not to be here," I said, my voice rising. "You think I'd rather be anywhere else than with you." She flinched slightly. "That's exactly why I didn't tell you." I stopped beside her bed. Close enough now to see every detail. Every change. Every sign of what she had been carrying alone. "For 8 months," I whispered, "you went through this alone." "I wasn't alone," she said softly. That hit. "You had him." Her silence was answer enough. I laughed bitterly. "So that's what I was replaced with, a backup plan." "No," she said quickly, shaking her head. "Never that." "Then what?" Her voice broke. "A shield." I stared at her. Confused. Angry. Hurting. I needed someone who wouldn't fight me, she said. Someone who would let me push them away without questioning it. And you knew I wouldn't. She nodded slowly. Because you love too hard. That hurt more than anything. Because she was right. So instead, I said quietly, you made me believe you didn't love me anymore. Her tears fell freely now. I needed you to hate me. I don't hate you. Her face crumpled. That's worse. Silence again. But this time, it wasn't empty. It was full of everything we never got to say. Everything she tried to bury. Everything I never saw. I reached for her hand. She hesitated. Just for a second. Like she didn't deserve it. Like she wasn't allowed to have it. But I didn't give her a choice. I held it. Gently. Carefully. Like something fragile. Something I could lose at any second. I'm here now, I said softly. Her lips trembled. You shouldn't be. I don't care what I should or shouldn't be. Tears streamed down her face. This isn't a movie, Daniel. There's no happy ending here. I know. Then why are you here? I looked at her. Really looked at her. Not the illness. Not the fear. Just her. Because that's all she ever was to me. Because you don't get to decide how I love you. That broke her. Completely. She covered her face, sobbing. And I moved closer. Sat beside her. Pulled her gently into me. Careful not to hurt her. Careful not to lose her. I was trying to protect you, she whispered against my chest. I know. I didn't want your life to end with mine. It won't. She pulled back slightly, shaking her head. You don't know that. I do. She looked at me through tears. How? Because loving you isn't the end of my life. I swallowed hard. It's the reason it meant something in the first place. She stared at me. Like she didn't believe she was allowed to hear that. Like she didn't deserve it. You don't get to erase yourself from my story just because you're scared of how it ends, I said quietly. Her breathing hitched. I'm not going anywhere. The machines beside her beeped softly. A steady reminder. That time wasn't waiting for us to figure this out. Days passed. Then weeks. I stayed. Through everything. The treatments that no longer worked. The nights she couldn't sleep. The mornings she barely woke up. I was there. Every second. Every breath. Every moment she thought she was alone. I proved her wrong. Sometimes we talked. Sometimes we didn't. Sometimes we just sat there. Holding hands. Letting silence say what words couldn't. One night. She looked at me differently. Calm. Peaceful. Like she had finally stopped fighting. I'm tired, she whispered. I squeezed her hand. I know. She looked at me. Really looked. Like she was memorizing me again. But this time, I was there to see it. I'm sorry, she said. I shook my head. No more apologies. Her lips curved slightly. A soft, tired smile. I still love you. This time, those words didn't break me. They healed something. I know, I whispered. I never stopped. Her eyes slowly closed. And I stayed there, holding her hand, until the machines changed their rhythm. And then, stopped. Silence. The real kind this time. I didn't cry right away. I just sat there, still holding her hand, even when it went cold. Because letting go meant accepting it was over. Eventually, I had to. The days after felt unreal. Like I was walking through a life that no longer fit me. But something inside me had changed. Not broken. Not destroyed. Just different. Because she was right about one thing. My life didn't end with hers. But she was wrong about something too. Loving her was never something I needed to recover from. It was something I would carry. Always. Months later, I found myself back at that same parking lot, the one where everything fell apart. But this time, I wasn't empty. I looked up at the sky, took a deep breath, and for the first time since that night, I smiled. Because love, even when it ends, doesn't disappear. It changes you, shapes you, stays with you. And sometimes, even after everything, it gives you the strength to keep going, no matter how much it hurts. And that's the truth no one tells you. The end of a story isn't always the end of love. Sometimes, it's where love becomes something else, something quieter, something deeper, something that never really leaves you. Something like her, forever.